Welcome to the Floyd Memorial Library podcast, where we sit down with the people who give shape, texture, and voice to life on the North Fork of Long Island. Some are rooted here by generations, others arrived by chance or choice, but all carry with them a piece of the story. We talk about what's changing, what's worth holding on to, and the currents of history, both quiet and loud, that run through this place. I'm your host, Christopher Bianchi, and for episode 234, we sit down with Janice Claudio, chair of the Greenport Historic Preservation Commission. Greenport is a place where history isn't just something you read about, it's something you walk through. From its maritime roots to its architecture, the village carries layers of its past in plain sight. But preserving that history while also allowing a community to grow and change is no simple task. In this conversation, we talk about the role of the Historic Preservation Commission, what it does, how it works, and why it matters. We also get into the ongoing discussion about potentially expanding the historic district village-wide, what that could mean for property owners, and some of the common misconceptions surrounding historic designation. Janice offers a clear and thoughtful perspective on how Greenport can balance preservation with progress, and why this moment is an important one for residents to be paying attention. This conversation is about place, identity, and the responsibility of shaping what a community looks like, not just today, but for generations to come. So I hope you enjoy episode 234 with Janice Claudio. This episode was recorded March 9th, 2026. Thank you so much for coming on the Floyd Memorial Library podcast today. It's really great to have you on today.
Thank you, Chris. It's great to be here.
Oh, thank you. And so just before we get into the topic of the Greenport Historic Preservation Commission, I recently saw in the paper that there was a grant that you received with the village. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Sure, I'd be glad to do that. So we did receive $25,000. What that is for is to complete a survey that was done in 2020, and professional people came in, preservation studios, and looked at all of the structures within Greenport Village and wrote to the State Historical Preservation Office, SHPO, and said, we think these areas are eligible for nomination, that's the official word, to the state and national registers. So then the SHPO people looked at that in 2020 and they agreed. They said that the core historic district should be expanded. We should go up to 2nd Street. We should include Front Street. We should include properties on Sterling Avenue, our oldest homes, properties in the village, and Munsell Place. And then very importantly, Green Hill Cemetery will be part of this. So that group of consultants is coming to the village with this award of $25,000 that we received in April. And they are going to begin this work. And it's about 250 properties they're going to be looking at and writing up about the architecture and why these groups of properties are significant to America's history. So to be on the national and state registers is the highest award that this country can give to a property. It's a significant thing. It also has real benefits in that there are tax credits for commercial properties. Once renovations are approved, they can receive up to 50% back in tax credits. It can be 20% from the federal government and 30% from the state. And this is an old program. It's not a new thing. It's been around a long time. It's going to stay around. So it's very significant in that way. That is our government trying to encourage the preservation of our properties. Mm-hmm. And I think, interestingly enough, it's not just the exterior of a building, it's the interior of buildings too. because people realize that old properties have needs on the inside. So it's actually only 5% of the exterior that's a requirement for renovation. Although personally, I hope it's more. But it's a great program, and we will bring that home if we are successful in this nomination for these properties. We already have that distinction or capability for our core historic district, the 264 properties that are now on Greenport's historic national and state registers. And they have been on the registers since 1984. So historic preservation is not new to Greenport. It's kind of an exciting time if we can get this done. And we feel that it's going to be a process that we will achieve, that it will come to pass either late in this year or early next year.
Okay. And you said that was in 1984 that was officially designated?
Yes. So it gets slightly confusing in that there are different types of historic preservation. So there are just thinking of Greenport for a minute, there's the local district, which has ordinance that works for that local district. And we have, it overlaps with the state and the national, but that's not necessary at all. We have those 264 properties that come to review renovations in front of the Historic Preservation Commission. And last year, in 2005, we had Sandy Beach, the 27 properties there, asked to be part of the local district, which we agreed that their historic significance was such that they should be part of the local district. So we now have 291 properties on the local district. So that is subject to ordinance protection. Demolishment requires a review. Renovation of exteriors, only exteriors, requires review for these properties. So that's one type of historic preservation. Then there are the state and national registers, which is this grant thing that we're just starting to work on. And that is, as I say, the tax credits, it's recognition, and it's other grants that come along. So it is a kind of a all good benefits to the property owners with state and national register nomination. So there's those three types that have different aspects to them. And then I think we're all familiar with individual properties. And so a property can ask to be on the state and national registers, and that property can determine whether it's the exterior or the interior. Say some significant staircase, for example, is so historically special that they want to include that on the registers. So individual properties can also be part of the registers. I think it's interesting. I did some research last night, and in New York State, there are 130,000 recognized historic resources, including individual sites, districts, but 130,000 specific things. Historic preservation is not something new. It is well established. A third of Long Island's municipalities have some kind of local historic district. There's about 50 historic districts on Long Island.
Wow.
So it's a thing that government and people recognize the benefit of. Perhaps the biggest advocate for historic preservation is Sag Harbor. They have a little shy of 50% of their total property is within a historic district. Greenport is also significant in that we have a little more than 25% of our properties currently in an historic district. with our intent to move forward with this additional 250 on the state and national. We might look ahead to a time when we also consider those properties, if found significant enough to be on these registers, to receive local protection and be added to our local historic district for preservation and protection.
I think we'll continue back to that, but I wanted to just touch on yourself and what first inspired you to get involved in historic preservation in Greenport.
It's a interesting question. It's got kind of an emotional side and I guess a logical side. I think Greenport has always been good to the Claudio family for generations. I think that this is a gift. The work that is necessary to get this done is my gift to Greenport Village, which, you can say you love the village, but I think it's important to do something for the village. And this is me trying to do that. So that's part of the emotional side. I also, whenever I come back into the village from being away, you realize how unique it is, how the homes are so different than anywhere else, and how special they are. We are an old maritime culture. These houses have been here for generations before us. They will be here after us. They have a story. Each one has a story. Each one was built by an individual, many times for a reason, marriage and expanded family. I feel like our time with the houses is just a slice of that life. We're stewards for that time. These houses live before us and after us, and it's our job to just take care of them, to take a look at them. So that's part of what I'm doing. I think, too, that Greenport just has a very unique situation with its density. Greenport was a whaling village, and then that died away. But Greenport then had the shipbuilding, and it had the railroad, and it has a small landmass. It wasn't farming pushed. It was these different eras in its time. So the landmass of the village is 1.2 square miles. But interestingly enough, that includes water. So it's only 0.95 square miles when you take out the water. And you take out the streets and the docks and that kind of thing, and there's 480 acres of land in Greenport Village. And the most recent survey of how many tax parcels are in that square miles is 1,250. So every acre of Greenport has at least 2 properties on it, 2.3 properties on it. So all that says it's extremely densely built out. I have a home 3.5 feet from the property line. It's a 1875 house. It's just the way Greenport is. So it is important for everyone that we take a look at our properties before we make big changes to them. And that's what the Historic Preservation Commission does. It's looking at streetscape. It's looking at what the standards from the Secretary of Interior are. It's looking for what is a significant architectural feature from the original house, and trying to maintain those key elements to the property. So protecting that is why I wanted to get involved in this. And that's it.
Yes. And for the Historic Preservation Commission, was that founded earlier than in the 70s?
So the Historic Preservation Commission comes out of ordinance. It's called Chapter 76. It was passed by the village board in 1988. So that Greenport's core historic district became part of those registers. And then the village enacted the code that created the Historic Preservation Commission.
Was that something that was sparked from previous years before that, where there was some, in terms of buildings being changed in the 70s or 80s or?
I don't know the specifics of it. I think it's a recognition of what we have.
Okay.
And there were a group in the 70s that went around up descriptions as best they can, citizens, people who lived in the village, and created a base of information that the state then used to accept the inclusion of these 264 properties on the state and national registers. And following that, because that is just recognition, the state and national registers are recognition, tax credit, grants, right? There's no legal oversight. Anybody can build anything, anybody can take down anything, it's not part of the state or national programs to actually oversee those assets.
Yes.
They are looked at, they are nominated, they're accepted, and that is that. So the village then recognized the need for local law overseeing these properties and adopted that code, Chapter 76. It's a 11-page code. It's a fairly straightforward, easy thing to do. So the HPC is made up of 5 members. They all are within Greenport Village. Right now, our board is made up of 5 people that live within the historic district, but that's just a coincidence. We have an historic expert that sits on our board and guides us with very specific, accurate information about architecture. He's a non-voting member. Each of the 5 vote. We meet every month. We typically will review and issue what's called a certificate of appropriateness. Kind of a funny name, but it's a requirement for the building permit, a COA, within that first meeting. Last year, it was only one application that required a comeback out of the 24 that we reviewed. If it is a new construction, a demolition, or a major renovation, a public hearing will be called. And a public hearing gives neighbors and all surrounding properties an opportunity to know what's going on, talk about what's going on. And it's just, again, the community-driven aspect of how tightly we all live together and a benefit, a protection for all.
Yes.
You know, you invest in your property and you don't want to see the property next door to you taken down, anything put up within the zoning requirements without any oversight. No one in the village looks at a plan and says, okay, this works, it doesn't. It only, not from an aesthetic point of view, it's only from a zoning point of view, from a law point of view. So without the local protections, your neighbor can really build anything, which could affect the whole street view, your property values. So it's a benefit to everyone.
But just looking at the historic district today, there are certain bigger sections, but then it can be sporadic with different areas that, or houses that might be part of the historic preservation. But as you said, there's been discussion over in recent years to expand the district, possibly village-wide. What really sparked that conversation?
What sparked that conversation was the recognition of the uniqueness of Greenport, and that it sometimes is just easier to erase and build any kind of quick and easy thing to possibly rent it out. It's Once it's gone, it's gone.
Mm-hmm.
And our assets are old, and they need a moment of thought before the story of them is completely eliminated and never to be had again. So there are many beautiful properties within Greenport that sit without that protection. And the protection is really just it's a straightforward thing for the property owner. It adds 30 days, 60 days to the process to a property that's over 50 years old for sure, and 150 years or 200 years old. So it's a small safeguard with a big return.
Mm-hmm. And what would that generally mean? There can be a lot of misconceptions for residents with this historic designation. What are some of the common ones that people usually...
I think it's fearful to change. That's just always true.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't exactly understand what it is, and you've gotten along without it, so why do we need it?
Mm-hmm.
But the idea is that simple changes are easy. Windows and color and just simple renovation kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
It's a straightforward, we get it thing. There's no real
Mm-hmm.
process to it. If you're going to make a big change, then we might have the public hearing. We might say, hey, the elimination of shingles there doesn't make sense. We only opine on what the application says. If you come to us and want to put in a awning on the side of your house, we're not going to say we can't talk about your front door. It's just the applications are for whatever the changes are. And those are usually just straightforward matters. The bigger applications that change the facade of the house totally, those bear more discussion.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what we try to do. It's streetscape. It's not, I think people too think that when you have historic involved, it's going to be, we have to renovate it exactly to the way it was in 1875, and that's all they're looking for. That is so not true. We have a district. We have a look to the street, and we are trying to maintain that appearance. And we understand that a center chimney might totally change the interior of your house so that you can't do what you want in the inside of your house. So we'll talk about it. There are new techniques today. We understand that. We want that. We try to make the compromise that works for everybody. Investment in the village is a good thing, and we support that. I think it's interesting to say something about properties that are not historic that go through this process. So of the 264 original properties, there are 10 that are considered non-conforming. So that means they don't have the historic basis to be on their own historic. So why then do those properties have to come to Historic Preservation Commission for changes? They're actually some of the most important properties, in that if you have a non-conforming property and now new changes are made to it, can we consider bringing it more in line with historic considerations? If you don't have that protection on the non-conforming properties, again, anything can be built or rebuilt. So you want to have that look at the non-conforming. As we move forward with the new nomination to the state and national level, I don't know how many properties will be non-conforming. I do believe it'll be a greater number, But again, that logic holds that it's all together and the closeness, and
Mm-hmm.
we want to protect all the properties. So when you're doing that change, we should take a look at it for a quick second.
Yes. And as you mentioned, it's unique, I think, on the North Fork being the density of the village. And I don't know if you would say just over the last few years, if you've seen change within the village growing and evolving. We have seen some properties be demolished and build these new houses, but some of them aren't always within the character of the neighborhood.
Yes, that's true. These are all our neighbors, and it's all, we accept that. We all live together. What
Mm-hmm.
exists, exists. But if we can move forward with a historic preservation mindset, the
Mm-hmm.
village, it could lead to carpenters who have a historic skill set, or electricians, or supply houses, or I mean, it could be the Greenport way, and
Mm-hmm.
it could be really why people want to come to Greenport. There's many reasons to come to Greenport, but I think our architecture is certainly one of them, and
Mm-hmm.
saving it or preserving it is important, and it can only be done now, in the sense that when it's gone, it's gone, and we've all seen that things disappear.
Mm-hmm.
But if we as a village have a mindset that this is what we want to see happen, we can preserve our properties.
Yes. And it's not that whether the village is trying to balance growth, and balance preservation, it's really just trying to have this set in stone for when the village is growing, and making sure it's not that it's going to set back the village in terms of delays and processes, really.
The process is, in the vast majority of times, it's almost always it's 30 days.
Mm-hmm.
Every project deserves 30 days. An investment by the owner, by the neighbors, by
Mm-hmm.
all of us living here, and 30 days makes sense. Public hearings make sense
Mm-hmm.
for those really big changes, for the new construction, for the demolition. 60 days is not a lot in the life of these buildings that can be hundreds of years old, so it just makes sense to take a pause and looking at something that in many cases is the reason we're all here. The look of
Mm-hmm.
this village, the story of this village, is what appeals to all of us. It makes everyone say, I love Greenport. I love living here. But it can't be just, it needs to be protected. It
Mm-hmm.
can't just be believed that it's going to go on forever. It needs to have some kind of look
Mm-hmm.
that Chapter 76 allows for.
Yes. And you've had, just in terms of talking about this, we've had meetings, open forum meetings at the library discussing this possibility of a village-wide district. But I'm sure you've gotten a lot of questions. But in terms of just for residents, in terms of regulations or cost of having this within the district, and people talking about property rights, what do you say to people that are concerned about regulations or cost?
So, property rights issue is I think an important one, and I do believe that some of that concern is just a lack of understanding or awareness that this is just the exterior, that no one can knock on your door and say, hey, you need to change your shutters. It only comes with a renovation to your home, a specific application that is made, and then that is looked at. Property rights in building are subject to all of the codes of the of the fire and plumbing, and this really is in line with that thinking. It's the protecting of the asset. Um, I don't I see it as a benefit to everyone, to the person who is making the investment. They know that their investment is going to not be damaged by the construction of a big orange box across the street, that it is a reasonable process, a look at their property. And again, as to cost, we are not demanding that we go back and put a corbel there. We understand that materials are expensive. We actually worked with Riverhead Building Supply, went and spoke with them, and there are many types of substitute materials these days that can be used in renovating a home. There are many options. All of them are kind of expensive. It's just the truth of what goes on with building. But we're looking at a Anderson 400 series window, for instance. It's not demanding the highest quality product to be used. What we would look at with windows is that the divides mimic the original lighting divides in a house. That's the kind of thing we're looking for. So all of it is not really a burden. It's a moment of pause to understand what can be best used to make your property, your commercial building, or your house as best as it can be.
Yes. No, that's important. And I think there was another thing I wanted to just discuss was, are there other benefits in terms of tax credits and for keeping with the historic district and maintaining the house in its character?
Yes. So that is the benefit of the two types of historic preservation, the state and the national registers. So for individual homes, qualifying renovations would receive a 20% state tax credit that rolls forward for 5 years. So your renovation expense is 20% less than if you weren't in a historic district. So there's an opportunity to offset this either real or perceived additional expense in materials that will benefit your home and make it more valuable. And then for the commercial renovations, the qualified renovation expenses, it's this 50%.
Okay.
And again, I think it's a clear statement from government that they are trying to, that this is important, that these assets are so worth protecting. And here is money to help you do that.
Yes. No, and I think this is important to just have a conversation like this and continue to discuss the future of Greenport. And I think we've talked about what makes Greenport historically and architecturally unique, especially on the North Fork. But looking forward to the future, when future generations walk through Greenport, what do you hope they still see and feel?
I hope they see the character of the buildings. The houses are so individual. They have their own story to tell. They have seen the generations pass through them. They've come before us, and they're going to be here when we're gone. And I think if we can keep that story alive, we've really accomplished something in the village. We get an opportunity to live in these homes and take care of these homes and preserve them for the future.
Yes.
And keep the story of Greenport alive. Greenport's story is very interesting and involved, and it has so many lives to it. And it's so worthy of telling or knowing. So these properties are part of that story. That carpenter worked hard and made enough money to build his house on Carpenter Street, and the ship captains that built the bigger homes, and the German immigrants and the Irish immigrants, and we have a story to tell, and I want to keep that story alive.
Absolutely. And I wanted to just ask at the end if there was any other last minute things you'd like to say, whether upcoming future events that people might be able to come to. And
Yeah, we have, because of the grant, and the grant process will go on all of 2026 and go into 2027. So right now, we are informing all the properties in the community, the 1,250 properties, of what exactly is going on. There'll be a stuffer in the next utility bill that really lays out all the details of this grant. Then we are holding at the Little Red Schoolhouse just a come, let's talk. And that's going to be on March 14th and April 4th from 10 to 12, both times, Saturdays. And again, there's no formal agenda. There's no presentation or anything. It's just going to be come in and talk to us, ask us anything, support us, tell us what's on your mind. So that will happen. And then going forward, there will be more communication with the actual properties involved, the 250 properties. So we will keep them informed of what's happening. This initial work for identifying and specifically writing exactly the architectural history of each property within this expanded district, which is going to begin on April 7th and conclude on April 19th. So that's a big start, and that's Preservation Studios again, which I think is a great thing that we were able to get the same consultant that did the original 2020 work, and one of the individuals that was on that 2020 survey is coming back to work on this nomination. So we have a person who is familiar with the village, who loves the village, and is really excited about moving this forward. I just think that's a great opportunity. So there will also be work on the development of a period of significance, meaning these properties fit within a story of time, the historic story of Greenport, and that will be written up and worked out, and then it will all be packaged up and sent to the state, SHPO, the State Historic Preservation Office, which is a department that reviews these nominations. If they feel it's acceptable, that it's worthy of taking further, then a certified letter will be sent to every property owner within the expansion. And that property owner will have a vote on accepting the nomination or not within the district. It is a majority kind of vote. SHPO will come to Greenport to present and hear the public. Our Historic Preservation Commission is overseen by a different state agency, and they will come as part of that presentation as well. And then, assuming all that goes well, they will submit the state will submit a nomination to the federal government, to the National Register. The National Register will accept it. Hopefully, the state accepts it, and it's done. And once that original nomination is put into the state, properties can apply for the tax credits. It doesn't have to be a 100% wrapped up package for the renovation tax credits to be granted. And from a development point of view, Greenport's built out. There's no real big new construction going on without demolition. But we hope that there's be some development, maybe on Front Street, Main Street. These developers are able to get these credits and to mitigate some of the expense of their investment. So it can be a great tool for expanding, for rejuvenating Greenport. And I hope it becomes that.
Yes, no, definitely. Just seeing the village today, and I've only been here for almost 4 years, but it definitely has its unique character, and just being a walkable area on the North Fork. I think it's really important, and I want to thank you for sharing all this information and the work in preserving Greenport for future generations.
Thanks,
So
Chris.
thank you so much for
I
coming
hope
on.
I expressed it well, and I hope people understand, and I hope people ask questions, get the knowledge of what it really means. It is not a overbearing thing at all. It's a pause. It's 30 days in most instances. And what we're doing right now is the state and the national. I don't want to confuse it. It gets confusing because there's three. But this immediate project at hand is just the state and national registers. So
Yes. No, but thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Well, I hope you enjoyed episode 234 with Janice Claudio. I want to thank you for listening to the Floyd Memorial Library podcast, and we'll see you next time.